Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jim with Happy Humble Home, and today we're going to be doing a gardening video. As you can tell, it is very windy outside, and hopefully the sound won't be too bad, and I can hopefully kind of lower the sound of the wind. Sorry in advance. But it just feels amazing here, and I need to get in the garden, and I wanted to do a video, so this is what we're left with. But before we jump into that though, if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe and then hit that little notification bell so that way you get notified of all the adventures that go on here on Happy Humble Home. And if you are new to the channel, welcome, and I hope you stick around for more. But yeah, all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the gardening video. So, as you can tell behind me, everything is dead. It's completely shot. We're done for the season. We really didn't get our first frost until around, around Halloween probably, and even then it was barely a frost, so everything was still green, and we had warm enough days afterwards. It came back pretty strong, but then last week we had 2 nights to where we didn't get above 20, or I think about mid-20s for the low for 2 or 3 nights in a row, and then our daily highs was about like 35 to 38. So that little 2 to 3 days was cold enough to kill off everything. There was still some green on the tomatoes. There's still a lot of tomatoes that were still green, and the cold has just completely killed them all off. So we're gonna get out here and we're just gonna kind of chop everything down. Usually I cut down right above the base for the roots, so that way they can just kind of decompose in the ground there. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with all the tomatoes that are on the ground. I will probably just throw them in the compost pile because I don't really want tomatoes popping up. Tennessee weather, y'all, is, you never know what you're going to get. Earlier this week it was so cold it killed off everything, and we had the fireplace going all day, and now it's like 70 degrees and I'm out here like it's summertime, barefoot and shorts, and it feels amazing, which means I need to go open the windows in the house. That's what I need to do. Yeah, but I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna hop into the garden video, and we're just gonna I'm just gonna kind of show you how I'm gonna clean up this best I can, and what plants that we do have growing that I will use to do like an overwinter with as well. So hopefully the wind won't be too bad and we'll make this work. So the game plan is, since I remembered beforehand to put on gloves because my nails are all nice and pretty and they're color changing, so I don't want to mess those up. So gloves it is today. I usually get about halfway through with what I'm doing and then realize I probably should have put on gloves, but I didn't, but I remembered today, so brownie points for me. Anyways, so I'm just gonna rip stuff up, just start pulling stuff up kind of, and I think I'm just gonna throw it in the corner where my compost used to be, because we used it all this year, and where I'm going to start a new pile. So that's what I'm going to do with it at the moment. So, yeah, let's get to pulling stuff. Okay, so I pretty much got everything that was on the fence row, on the fences done, pretty much. I tried to leave the roots best I could, but some of them, they was just so lightly rooted, especially the pole beans that did absolutely nothing this year, pretty much. Like, I got maybe a handful of beans between my bush beans and my pole bean. I only had 1 bush bean grow. If you watch my previous video, you know the story behind that. So I think aphids is where I got those. I think some kind of critter. I think it was an aphid. But so what I'm going to do with the tomatoes is I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to go ahead and cut them off at the base and leave most of the roots in the ground so they can just kind of continue to decompose in my garden. And then we'll just go through and pick up any tomatoes that have fallen, because since I'm barefoot, I really don't want to step on squished tomatoes that much in the garden. And that way the dog don't try to drag them off in the yard either. But I'll just probably pick up what I can, throw it on garden soil, and then I'll just throw it over in the little area that I'll make my compost pile. And then we'll go through getting all the cages off and go ahead and put those up. And kind of the same thing with the okra here. And I'll zoom in on that one more because that's pretty beefy okra. So we'll talk about that in a minute. This little saw makes really nice quick work of these. This is like a little camping saw that we take on our camping trips. It makes a really nice little quick work of these, and you can see like the ground's so soft. I've pretty much just pulled that entire root up. So I guess that one we'll just go ahead and pull up, I guess. That one's already cut. So yeah, you can see all the tomatoes that I ended up not being able to use still. I don't know why I just now had the brainstorm to actually drag my tomato plants over to the compost pile and pull it apart there, so I'm not making a mess throughout the rest of my yard. So yeah, you gotta think to work harder, not smarter, not harder sometimes, people. I don't know what in the world I was doing wrong. I was clearly not thinking it through. That's what I was doing. Clearly. But, yeah. So. So all the tomato plants are out. You can still see some tomatoes that are left on the ground that I need to pick up quite a bit. But now it's time to chop down this okra. And I mean, again, y'all, this is not okra that I had started from seed, or it is one that I had not seed started or transplanted. There we go. I just put the seed in the ground when we started our garden back in like, what, March, April-ish time frame, something like that, mid-April. And that's how beefy she's got. So we're just gonna cut it off here, and then since it is so thick, it would take it a really long time to decompose. So probably what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut it down now, and I'm gonna set it off to the side, and then I will let my children chop it up into smaller pieces that we can use we'll probably just either put it for firewood or chop it up into smaller pieces so it can slowly but surely start decomposing. Or if there's something that they want to do with it. But that's what we're going to do with it right now. So I'm just going to chop it down, and then I'll give my kids the task of cutting it into smaller pieces. So yeah, that's all we're going to do right now. So yeah, you can see how fit, like it's, and then also I usually don't let the okra seeds go. Like a lot of those seed pods were already starting to split, and usually that's not the case. I usually get them off before, but you can see another video where I did that already. And there's a lot more that I obviously didn't get that I left on there. And there was a lot that had already busted open. So there's no telling how many okra seeds are just around this plant. So it'll be interesting to see how many okra plants come up next year when it comes springtime. Or if any come up, we'll see. Because my basil is a very prolific self-seeder, and we're gonna find out if okra is apparently, if all the birds don't eat it. And then we're also, recall, I did a video where I planted some like fall crops, fall or winter crops. I wanted to see if they grow. This one had like a lot of lettuce that was, granted, no, they were older seeds, and nothing has popped up. I did put garlic here, and you can see I've got quite a nice little line of garlic going pretty much all the way to where my okra is down there. Yeah, so that kind of wraps up this video. Like I said, just kind of a quick garden clean out. I know some people like to leave all of their garden stuff in and do a clean out in the spring. I do that with my herbs and everything, especially my basil. I tend to do all that. I usually do one kind of clean out in the summer months too, but then I also really clean out more in the springtime with the herbs. But in our actual garden, I prefer to go ahead and clean it out for the most part, so that way I can see what crops I do have going over the winter. And then also I just kind of see what we have to start with when it comes, whenever it comes to spring of next year. So to each of their own on that one. But I'm sure somebody will let me know in the comments that I should wait and do it in the spring. But that's the way I did it. So that's what we're with at this point. And as always, if y'all have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comments section below, and I will check in with y'all later.